Hello everyone, welcome. So tonight, our goal is to make some bomb salmon bowls. And my name, first of all, is Kayla Gergen. I am a registered dietitian and I want to take the popular TikTok trend and spin that into a little bit healthier version. So if you've seen on TikTok, there's a viral video going around and it's basically salmon, rice, and seaweed. And we're gonna take that, we're gonna pop some more color in it. And my favorite part is I'm gonna show you how to make the perfect salmon. So my husband actually won't eat salmon from a restaurant anymore because he prefers mine, so.
Facts.
Yes. So he is my wonderful cameraman tonight, and we will be fielding questions too. I don't know if we'll be able to answer them during the live stream here. So if you drop your comments in the box below, we'll be sure to get to those after the call if we don't get to them during that. So to begin, we'll talk through just a few of the ingredients here, then we'll get to cooking up some salmon. I've got a few things prepared. Let's get started. So we've got a variety of things. So you could really make this a really fun like family night. You could do, instead of salmon, you could do something like chicken, shrimp. Really, the options are endless. Really what I've taken inspiration from is we've had some roll your own sushi nights. So I've taken some ingredients from that and kind of spun it into this spicy salmon bowl. So imagine a spicy salmon roll unwrapped here. So I have got some cucumber that I've diced up. I prefer to peel mine. All right, so I have some diced cucumber. I've got some shredded carrots. And then here I've just got some frozen peas that I've let thaw. And then also some jalapenos because we like things a little bit spicy in our house. And instead of in the TikTok video, you'll see a lot of people like using that as almost a scoop. I've just torn up my seaweed wrappers. So that's just personal preference. You can eat it like they do on TikTok. But basically I've got these seaweed sheets and they look like this. They kind of smell like fish food, but they're good. So they just come in sheets like this, and this is what you'd roll like sushi with. But I'm gonna use mine as more of a garnish in this dish. You do with what you please. And then I also have some sushi ginger, and then of course some sesame seeds. But again, the options are endless. You can really make this as colorful as you'd like, so you can bulk it up with veggies. I'm gonna be doing a couple different versions of the salmon bowls tonight. So I have some rice that's cooked, and then I'm also gonna do a low carb cauliflower rice version as well. So if you're a Costco fan, like I am, I just am gonna take this organic cauliflower rice stir fry, and that's what I'm gonna use for my low carb base on this. And then for my hubby who prefers not cauliflower rice, we're gonna use just standard rice for him. And then for the salmon, I've actually just taken a couple salmon fillets here and thawed them overnight. So what I like about these is that they come in 6-ounce portions already. So one portion is gonna be almost 40 grams of protein, which is a really, really great deal. But I like to have those individually packaged because they just seem to last a lot longer. So simply thaw those in the fridge overnight. And the key to getting your perfect salmon is to get them nice and dry. So I did pat them once with a paper towel, but that's where I'm gonna start here again. Is just make sure you get all that moisture off. And so I've got my pan heating here. For my stove, it tends to run a little bit on the hot side. So I have an electric stove and that's set at about a 4 right now. But for your stove, do something that would give you like a medium high-ish. And what we're gonna do is add some avocado oil. So my big thing of avocado oil here. But one reason I like to use avocado oil is because it holds its own at higher temperatures. So when you look at things like extra virgin olive oil, for example, that's gonna deteriorate at a lower temperature. So when you're working with higher temperatures or searing something like we are tonight, avocado oil is going to hold its own a little bit better, meaning that it's not gonna deteriorate and the whole fat is a whole another story. But it's gonna be a lot healthier compared to some of the other fats when they break down. All right, so I've got the salmon nice and dry here. So first of all, we're going to season it. And the method that I learned this from was actually during my internship at the Mayo Clinic. One of the chefs did a demo on how to prepare salmon, and I've never done it any way different because it turns out perfect every single time. So what we're gonna do is just season it with salt and pepper. And one key thing that the chef mentioned was using a coarse salt. So using something like a coarse salt is gonna help give you more of a barrier in the pan. So when you go to flip your fish, you're not gonna get that stick, because I think that's where we get a kind of crumbly fish and it turns out a little bit more dry. So we're gonna sear it on one side and then finish it off in the oven. But you'll see here, you can actually see it's quite a bit like more coarse compared to your typical salt. But again, this is gonna act as a little bit of a barrier. So one thing to keep in mind is that because it is more coarse, you don't need a ton, but you wanna make sure you get enough, because you're gonna lose some in your pan. So usually I'm a little bit generous, especially these salmon fillets do have the skin on. So I'm gonna be relying on just getting seasoning from the one side here. So I'm gonna pick just these big chunks off. Get a little pepper on here. And then usually I just like to give it a little press in here. And then what I'm gonna do on the opposite side, just so we don't get a stick to the pan later on, I'm just gonna do salt on this side. So that way when it comes to peel off our pan, remember the coarser salt is gonna act more so as a barrier. Let's get those big chunks out of there. Now we'll see if our pan is ready. So another trick for you is if you have just a few water droplets on your hand and you hear, I don't know if you can hear the sizzle. Once you got that sizzle, that means your pan is perfect. The oven's set to 425. So our goal is to just give one side of the salmon a sear, and then we'll flip it and finish it in the oven for a few minutes. Olive oil. And another trick that I learned during my internship, so when the chef at Mayo was doing this salmon demo, I don't know if you'll be able to see it with the camera tonight here, but if you're looking at home, one thing, if you kind of look from the side, you'll actually be able to see like little waves in the oil. And it might depend on your pan how well you're able to see it. I'm not seeing them quite yet here, but that will tell you that your oil is the right temperature too. So you start with just a little splash on the hand with water to see if your pan is hot enough, toss in your oil, and I'm kind of starting to see those little waves now. So now we are gonna put the seasoned side down, and usually what I like to do is just kind of drag where the oil is on my pan, and we've got a little bit of a sear here. So our goal is gonna be to cook this till about halfway through. So my husband's getting a lesson. He's always wanted me to show him how to make salmon. All right, so once you've got these in, I'll try to turn the pan so you can see a little bit. But once we're able to see that the salmon is halfway cooked through, that's when we're gonna take them off. While we have that cooking, I will show you a few of the toppings that we've got. We talked about the fresh stuff, but in our house, we have a newfound obsession with spicy mayo. So one way that I like to make ours is with avocado oil. So again, when we were looking at or talking about avocado oil and the differences between that and olive oil, when it comes to things in a lot of food products that are packaged like this one, a lot of times companies are going to use cheap oils that are more inflammatory, but that's why I like this Primal Kitchen one a little bit more, because it's made with just olive oil. Otherwise, compared to other mayonnaise, you'll see like soybean oil or canola, some that are a little bit more pro-inflammatory. So bottom line is you get some healthier fats doing that. There are some some olive oil mayonnaise too, but one thing you'll notice is that they put olive oil in the mayo just so they can say they did. So a lot of times it's accompanied by some of the other things like cottonseed oil or soybean oil as well. But basically what I mixed up is just a combination of mayo and hot sauce, and it's bomb. So the nice thing about making your own is you can make it as spicy as you'd like. And one thing that I did was probably do maybe a cup or so and about a quarter cup of hot sauce, but really it's up to you. I've seen some people use sriracha too, but that is one really simple spicy mayo. You could call it yum yum sauce too, but a lot healthier version compared to what you'd get on your grocery store shelves. So let's take a peek at the salmon. And we're getting there, so I'm gonna wait for that to come up a little bit more. But the trick is don't flip it. So you can do this. This just happens to be salmon with skin on. You could easily do this with a fillet that doesn't have the skin as well. And another trick that I like to do, say if you have fish that are really like, there's a lot of variety in size, and maybe you're cooking for your family and you have multiple fillets to do, what I will do is cook the smallest fillets first, or the thinnest, and then I will throw those on my pan. Because when it comes time to the oven, you're not gonna need as much oven time to cook that through. You could do this with any fish too. We like to do a lot of salmon. Another fish that I like to do this with too is like orange roughy is one of our new favorites. It has a really good texture, but any like firmer fish that holds its own, you can cook this method and it turns out perfect every time. And one thing that you'll notice too is like people I think are intimidated a lot by cooking fish because it's really easy to overcook, so that means it's dry and the end product just isn't as great. So one thing, I always like to pull it out a little bit before it's done because you can always throw it back in the oven, and we'll talk about temperatures later on too, so that way you have an idea of what to look for. But I'm gonna say these are good. All right. So what's nice is once these hit the oven, this will kind of crisp up a little bit more too. But you can see they're about halfway cooked through. So you'll see here kind of that fleshy mark there. You'll see they're about halfway cooked through. I'm gonna toss these in the oven for probably about 8 minutes or so. And if you have a bigger fillet, I've done all the way up to like 15. But with time, you'll get used to what. Alexa, set timer for 8 minutes. Thank you. But once you get used to cooking fish and kind of knowing sizes, it'll be more comfortable to kind of guesstimate. Again, I would pull it out a little bit before you want it to be done, because you can always pop it back in. And fish will continue to cook a little bit. So if you imagine that pan, once you pull it out of the oven, is still gonna be really, really hot. So, step 2. All right, so while our fish is cooking, all I'm gonna do is take 1 package of this pre-made stir fry, and we'll get that going.
Someone did ask where you got those fillets from.
So that was Costco. So I'll show you, this is just the Kirkland brand. So the skin on, I can't remember what we paid for this bag. It felt, for the wild caught, you are gonna pay a little bit more. I think they do have some different like coho salmon. Those are more of like the farm raised. And really the difference is between your wild caught and your farmed fish is a lot of like the salmon are corn fed. When you're doing this, they're more wild fed. So you might have more of those healthier fats, and you might notice a difference in sizes too when you look at the fillets, whereas the wild caught might be smaller, your farmed fish might be, imagine like the chicken breasts at the store, they're like mega GMO breasts now.
Oh yeah.
And while we've got that, I'll show you what else we have going on here, and we can start to build our bowls. So here is the rice that I prepared for my husband, because I'm surprised he's letting me cook cauliflower rice tonight because it stinks up the house, but but this one not so much. So I just did regular, like plain white rice, and I just added a little bit of unsweetened coconut milk. So it's super creamy, as you can see here. And this one is the full fat stuff, but one thing you'll want to look for is that you get the unsweetened version. But this will be the base for his bowl, and then I am going to use a little bit of this in the cauliflower version too. So really we've got your standard kind of rice bowl, and then we've got a low carb. You could probably, call it a keto version too. One thing I like to emphasize more so is like slow carb meals. So when you're looking at, the difference between the two meals here, really you're gonna get a lot more vegetables, obviously, with the cauliflower rice, but you get a lot more fiber with that too. You could even do a 50-50 mix. I'm gonna crank this up a little. And I think too with cauliflower rice, it does tend to be a lot more watery. One reason why my husband doesn't really love it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Tastes good.
Yes. So sometimes what I'll do even is just kind of drain it a little bit to get some of that extra moisture out. So I'll show you the standard one first. So I'm guessing Jeremy will want some rice. Mm-hmm. The spicy mayo makes it. So one thing, we've got some, like the coconut milk, the cucumber that we do, it's kind of more cooler flavors, and the spicy mayo just like kicks it up a notch. Again, if you like jalapenos, those do add like a nice crunch and extra texture too.
We got a question.
Okay.
Do you add the same pan as you fried the salmon?
I did,
okay.
Yes. So if you are worried about like kind of the fishy flavor, you could use a different pan, but since we're doing kind of, salmon tends to be maybe a little bit fishier of the fish, then you can use the same pan. We like less dishes here, so. Yes. If you're watching live on YouTube, again, if you throw your questions in the comments, then I will be sure to get back to those after we wrap up this live stream. And we can peek at the salmon here. So you can hear, like, even without doing the other side, you can hear like that skin is crisping up too. So I'm just gonna add a little bit. What you'll notice is, like when you get the coconut milk, it separates. So if you were to buy coconut cream, that's basically what you're getting on top here. And I'm just gonna use this to make it a little bit creamier there. But this should help thicken it up a little bit too and get rid of that extra water from the cauliflower rice. So this will be my base. I'm gonna do, again, a little bit more lower carb version. And then hubby will have the regular one. So if you're cooking for your family and they like their rice and their noodles, I love doing dishes like this where you have, maybe your main protein, and then you've got maybe a starch and something like this. So your cauliflower rice or something where you can put things on a bed of veggies and make it really colorful. It can be a really fun meal. And like I said here, you can really, the options are endless. Avocado, frozen edamame. I think like red peppers, like cut up, would be really nice with this too. So I love doing a ton of different colors, but really this would be a fun thing to do with friends too, like a date night.
Perfect. I think Beth's got a question. Does the coconut milk make it sweet? Can you taste the coconut? It's
not a sweet coconut. So this one, if you got this one, it's more like, it smells like nothing, to be honest. But you'll get some of that coconut flavor, but really you'll see here there's no sweetener added to that, so there's no added sugars. Look at that. I don't know if you can hear the sizzle, but you'll see it crisps up really nice on top, even though it really didn't look quite that crisp when we got it. But we are gonna check the temperature, so safety first. So for any sort of fish, if you use something like a digital thermometer, 145 is what we're looking for here. So I'm gonna find kind of the widest part. And just by the feel, I can tell we're gonna hit that. It might be actually a little over. So usually I like to get this out maybe even a minute sooner, because 145 is your final temp. And again, this will continue to cook usually a little bit. So I'll probably take it off the pan right away here.
Isn't there a term for that when it continues to cook?
The carryover cooking, maybe?
Does anybody know? Drop that in the comments.
Yes, bonus points. So I think that was something I was quizzed on. So even with any meat, so if you're cooking like chicken, steak, things like that, you can always just pull it off like 5, maybe even 10 degrees sooner, but just make sure you double check it before you eat it. All right, so we've got our low carb bowl and our regular bowl. I am gonna peel the skin off of these right away. All right, just be careful. Usually if we weren't doing bowls, I'd just leave it on and we could eat the
That's the
foil.
carryover cooking is right.
Yay!
Colleen said the same thing, so
Good.
nice work.
Thanks.
Your memory's
On
incredible.
the spot. Okay, so I'll take the baby ear fillet. And I have to say, we've had a lot of different salmon, and we used to do like the fresh salmon at Costco, but when you cook that, my husband informed me that after 4 days of salmon, it's just not as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I love these frozen fillets. All right, and now the fun part. So we'll cut that. Cucumber here. So again, you can really customize this with as much or as little as you'd like. I know you love peas, so I won't even ask. Right, and for me, I'll do seaweed. Do you want any?
No, maybe we'll put it on the side and I'll sprinkle it in. We'll see. I like it.
This
in
is the
sushi
look I
roll.
got on the other end going, And then I know this is a no for you, but I'm gonna do sushi ginger. Okay. Sometimes when I cook the cauliflower rice, I really like to add a little bit of extra ginger to it. So everything's gotta look extra pretty. All right, so you've got that. And then we'll top with a few jalapenos. And to be extra fancy, we got our sesame seeds. Sesame for you?
Sesame, yes, please.
Okay.
And we got a couple questions. Do you
Okay.
notice the difference between sushi ginger and regular ginger?
This one is some good questions. So some of the sushi gingers are sweetened just a little bit. I don't know that with how much you eat that you'd notice like a real big difference, or if you're worried about carbs that it's that much of a concern. They're the same as far as ingredients go, and I think I happen to get the same one. The biggest thing is going to be the texture. So with the sushi ginger, it's going to be more in strips like you see here. So if you think of like what you get when you order sushi versus this is what I like to cook with. So if I were to add this to a stir fry, this has more of like think of like minced garlic. So something more of like a paste.
And then why are you using seaweed?
Because it's that brings it to the TikTok.
All
So
that.
we just healthified the TikTok trend, and usually that just consisted of like rice, salmon, and seaweed, but you could easily leave the seaweed off, and really the options for toppings are endless, and you can add as much or as little. So you can see it makes a really, really pretty meal. But again, like edamame would be really good with this. The little shelled, they look like lima beans, red peppers, anything to get a little extra crunch. But the options are endless. Got questions, you can drop them in the comments. I think it's time to eat. So
Yep, so hop over to YouTube if you haven't yet, because that's where we're going to be posting most of those videos.
yeah, so my husband has dutifully worked very hard to get all of our content centralized on YouTube. So we'll have things like higher protein recipes like you see here, nutrition information, and really just a lot of great content out there for free. So like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. If you'd like to see more cooking demos like this, I would love to hear your feedback on maybe what dishes you'd like to see, whether they're kind of holiday specific or just kind of family weeknight stuff. So this was a little bit extravagant, but I would love to do more cooking demos, and let me know what you want to see more of.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you for
everybody.
watching. Yes.